The year is 2025, and New York City is its usual self, dazzling, chaotic, loud, and alive in a way that no other city manages to be. Its people rush through their routines with a practiced confidence, Wall Street brokers clutching coffee cups, tourists gazing up at steel towers, street vendors shouting over one another. It is a normal morning, or at least it seems to be. Far away at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, Drive, Elena Ross studies the screens in front of her with growing unease. She has spent her life tracking seismic activity in the world's oceans, but what she sees now defies everything she knows. A violent surge of movement trembles across the digital graph, a seismic spike so large that at first she thinks it must be a faulty sensor. Her intern, Liam, confirms otherwise. The readings are real. An underwater earthquake, massive and unusual, has erupted somewhere along the mid-Atlantic ridge. The alarms activate on their own. A magnitude 9.1 quake is detected beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Elena's pulse quickens. A quake of that scale in that region is almost unheard of. She immediately alerts NOAA, FEMA, and federal response teams. Every second matters. What she cannot see from her lab, but knows must be happening, is the displacement of billions of tons of seawater. A gigantic wall of water begins to form and accelerate, silently and relentlessly, toward the United States. It is not a single wave but a series of waves triggered in rapid sequence. A tsunami is coming, a large one, possibly catastrophic. In New York City, people receive emergency alerts nearly at the same moment. Firefighter Jack Coleman, a seasoned responder known for his calm under chaos, steps out of engine 47 after a routine fire call when the notification hits his phone. Tsunami warning. Seek higher ground immediately. He hesitates. A tsunami? Here? It doesn't seem possible. But then the emergency sirens across the city begin to wail, and the digital billboards flash red warnings. Pedestrians look around in confusion, then panic. Jack races into the fire station and activates evacuation protocols. Manhattan is surrounded by water, and most of the city is flat and vulnerable. Maria Santos, his partner, arms herself with a megaphone, and the two rush into the streets in their fire engine, urging people to move inland or higher. But traffic is gridlocked, pedestrians flood the streets, and fear spirals into chaos. Parents cling to their children, delivery cyclists abandon their bikes, and car horns scream endlessly. While Jack and Maria coordinate evacuations from Battery Park, Elena is flown by helicopter to New York's Emergency Command Center. She explains the gravity of the situation to the mayor. The wave heading toward them is estimated to be close to 200 feet high. The city has less than an hour. Lower Manhattan will be hit hardest. The subway system must be shut down before it becomes a death trap. The mayor is overwhelmed, but Elena stays direct and focused. Lives depend on quick decisions. As the countdown nears the final minutes, the atmosphere shifts. The sky darkens as if a storm is forming, but the ocean is the true threat. The water begins to draw back, exposing stretches of seabed, an ominous phenomenon well known in tsunami science. Confused tourists walk toward the receding shoreline. Locals stare in disbelief. Then, the roar begins. A deep, thunderous growl echoes from the ocean. Jack looks up from Battery Park and feels his breath catch. On the horizon rises a massive wall of water, towering over the skyline like a moving cliff. For a moment, everyone freezes. Then instinct takes over. Jack screams for people to run. Parents lift their children onto their shoulders. Cyclists drop their bikes and bolt. Maria pushes a woman in a wheelchair toward the nearest building. The tsunami slams into the city with a sound like detonating explosives. The ground trembles as the wave engulfs everything in its path. Water explodes through the streets, shattering windows, sweeping cars into buildings, and tossing buses like toys. Jack grabs a young girl who stands paralyzed by fear, a 7-year-old named Sophie, and dives behind a concrete barrier just as the wave crashes over them. The force nearly tears him away, but he clings to the barrier and the child until the water settles. The first wave floods the lower half of Manhattan within minutes. Streets are now rivers. Subways are underwater. Buildings groan under the pressure. Jack emerges with Sophie in his arms, coughing and soaked. Maria finds them moments later. They know the first wave won't be the last. Using fire escapes and broken structures, they climb to higher floors. The second wave arrives soon after, higher than the first, pounding the damaged city until its foundations crack. When the second wave finally retreats, Manhattan is unrecognizable, a labyrinth of flooded streets, drifting cars, collapsed structures, and floating debris. Fires break out atop flooded ruins. Sirens fail. The city falls into a strange, drowning silence. As Jack, Maria, and Sophie seek shelter atop a damaged office building, Elena works tirelessly in the bunker. Every new seismic reading she receives shows a worsening situation. The underwater quake triggered cascading aftershocks. Another massive pressure buildup is forming. The next wave might be even larger. Jack and his small group of survivors create a makeshift raft using a door and debris, navigating through the drowned city in search of higher ground. Along the way they rescue several stranded people, an elderly couple trapped inside a floating taxi, a tourist clinging to a streetlight, and a delivery worker stranded on a submerged bus roof. They soon discover a partially submerged Coast Guard boat tangled between two skyscrapers. Against extraordinary odds, the engine still functions. They begin guiding survivors north, toward Midtown, careful to avoid sinking vehicles, broken glass, and unstable structures. Then it happens. The water begins to withdraw again. Faster than before. The seabed reappears, and boats ground themselves on exposed concrete. Elena sees the reading and feels her stomach drop. The ridge beneath the Atlantic has collapsed further. The next wave will be the largest yet. She rushes outside screaming that the mega wave is coming. Jack hears the distant roar while piloting the boat. When he turns, he sees a sight so enormous it feels unreal. A mega-tsunami nearly 300 feet tall, racing toward New York with impossible speed, blotting out the horizon. There is no escaping it. Jack pushes the engine to its limit, steering toward the tallest intact building nearby, the Empire State Building. The boat is lifted by the monstrous wave, hurled upward like a leaf caught in a tornado. Water batters them from every angle. People scream as buildings buckle and break apart. The boat crashes violently against the building's lower floors. Jack wraps his arms around Sophie, shielding her with his body as everything turns chaos and darkness. When he awakens, he is on the lobby floor of the Empire State Building. Water drips from the ceiling. The place is destroyed, but still standing. Survivors gather around, bruised, bleeding, grateful to be alive. Maria limps in, injured but conscious. Sophie sits wrapped in a blanket, shaken but safe. They hurry up to higher floors, unsure whether the building can withstand more waves. Meanwhile, Elena coordinates rescue efforts across the city. Helicopters begin lifting survivors from rooftops, one building at a time. The Empire State Building becomes a priority rescue zone. From the rooftop, Jack and dozens of survivors wave at the incoming helicopter. Sophie is lifted first. She clings to Jack, afraid he won't follow. He promises he will be right behind her. The rescue basket lowers again and again, carrying the elderly, the injured, and families to safety. Just as Jack and Maria prepare to board, the remnants of the final wave hit the building's base. The structure sways dramatically. Maria loses her balance, slipping toward the edge, but Jack grabs her arm, refusing to let her fall. With immense effort, he helps her into the basket, and they are lifted away as the helicopter strains to maintain altitude. From above, they see the fractured city, half submerged, half destroyed, but still standing. Smoke rises. Fires burn. The once bright city is now a drowning maze of steel and water. Yet survivors cluster everywhere, waving for help. Alive, resilient, Jack reunites with Sophie at a temporary rescue camp in Central Park, now transformed into a muddy emergency zone filled with tents, generators, and medical stations. Sophie's mother, who had been rescued separately, spots her daughter and runs toward her in tears. The emotional reunion touches everyone around. Maria is taken for medical treatment, and Jack is checked for injuries. Elena visits him later to thank him for saving so many people. Jack insists that they all played a part: scientists, firefighters, rescue teams, and ordinary citizens who helped one another survive. In the weeks that follow, New York begins the long, difficult process of rebuilding. The water recedes, revealing a city forever changed. Boats navigate through ruined avenues. Engineers reinforce damaged structures. Volunteers hand out blankets and food. The skyline is scarred, yet still majestic. A new memorial is built near the harbor, shaped like a rising wave, symbolizing both destruction and resilience. Its inscription honors the heroes and the survivors of the 2025 Atlantic tsunami. When the sun sets behind the wounded skyline, people gather quietly around the monument. They remember the day the ocean rose and tried to reclaim the city, and how, against all odds, New Yorkers stood together, refused to surrender, and endured.